see if it works.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, faintly, but we'll make it work, man.
Yeah, yeah. For those that don't know, this took us about almost an hour to figure this live thing out.
Yeah, it's been a real trial and tribulation, man.
Yeah. So man, for those of you guys checking in, man, please, if you can, share the live. We was trying to do it in a group, but we couldn't figure out how to make it work. So what's up, Manuel? Let me see. So I'm gonna go ahead and share it real quick. Uh, while we hold on one second. I'm just gonna go ahead and share it real quick. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. But hold on one second. I'm trying to see.
I'm sharing right now.
Yeah, I am too. Let's see how many people we can get on here.
Let's see if we can make this happen.
Steve Gonzalez says you're one sexy dude.
Yeah,
So
I can't help that, man. It just comes with the genetics.
yeah, you guys, we can share this live. I don't know, for some reason it used to be an option we can share it in groups, but I don't see that option, so I don't know how to do that. But I've invited some people. I'm inviting some more people now.
I invited a bunch of people, and we'll see what happens from there.
Okay. But let me invite Terrell, Bosley, Richard. Yeah, that's enough inviting. So, but yeah, man, I wanted to do this live because me and Mr. Ramos have been talking. I think recently we've been talking, but we've always kind of paid attention to each other. And I've always, I've admired, the things I've learned about him, the things I've seen him do within the community. And I know he's been around for a while. And, with a lot of people, I feel like a lot of new people coming into the community, and a lot of people not really knowing the story of the American bully. I wanted to get your perspective on your history with the bullies, how it started, how the American bully started from your view, uh, how you view it now and what you see happening in the future. So I guess for those watching that probably don't know the history on you, what would you, how would you, describe your history, how you became part of the American bully community?
But man, I go way back, man. I go back before the American bully. Being raised in a small farm community, we've always had dogs. Dogs were like, you didn't live in the farm without a dog. You know what I'm saying? It was just that's basically it. It was like it was part of the family, and I've had every breed imaginable and all pedigree dogs. I had like Samoyeds, German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Dobermans, poodles, Chihuahuas. My mom had all kinds of dogs. So I mean, I've always been around dogs all my life, but I always gravitated back to the American Pit Bull Terrier. I mean, I just loved it. And my desire at that time has always been bully. I always went for the more extreme looking pit bull, even when they were game dogs. I had example. I started out with a Jeep dog that was, you're lucky if it was 35 pounds soaking wet, and I had other dogs in the game line that were the Crenshaw, and the
Mm-hmm.
Crenshaw dogs that I had, believe it or not, they were extremely bully. I was really surprised, and this is way back like in like 1986 maybe. And these dogs were extreme bully. I had one that was named Escado's Death Stalker and Nubber. And Nubber was another little real bully dog. But I go way back. And I got my first pit bull in 1983, my first registered pit bull, and then from there I got my first show dog was in 1997. Hey Jacob, what's going down from down under, brother? You know, so with that being said, that's when I started showing. I started showing in 19. Actually, I got my first show dog 96. Stepped in the show ring 97, and I never looked back. You know, I had a great time, and even with those breeds, it was somewhat of a roller coaster ride, because I can remember when I was showing pit bulls, they were very standard, and then when it came into like the 90s, they went to a bigger dog. That's when they started showing dogs that were like 85, 90-pound pit bulls in the UKC, and they nowadays they went back to the standard, because they weren't, because the standard was always, you know, uh, 68 pounds, 18 inches, and then for a minute there they got really big. It's like any other registry; they go in cycles, whatever's trending at that time. And from there, I moved into the AKC, and I really enjoyed that. And like, just so people know that I just didn't judge. I handled a lot of dogs, and I actually took a lot of dogs to their title that I have produced and handled. So I mean, I was blessed to see all the different varieties, from gang dog, UKC style pit bull, to the Amstaff. And I've always, I would get bored with one and go to the next. And the way I got involved with the American Bully was, again, I was over, I believe it was over Tilo Bar, which was Ruckus Kennels at the time. And he had a
Mm-hmm.
dog by the name of Big John Blaze. And,
Is
and
it
I fell in
Ruckus
love with the
Kennel?
guy. How's that?
Is that Ruckus Kennel?
Ruckus Kennels. Yeah, Tilo Bar, Ruckus
Are
Kennels.
they the ones that produced Manu? The Ruckus
Was that
produced
now?
Manu? The Ruckus Kennel produced Manu, the dog named
No,
Manu.
Manu was I don't know where Manu actually, I don't know the exact history of Manu, so I'm not gonna sit there and tell you where he came from. But
Hmm.
I think Manu was with Cassidy Santos had him.
What
And
dogs were
Cassidy,
Ruckus known for producing?
what's that now?
What dogs
I
were
can barely hear you,
Ruckus?
that's why.
No, I know. What dogs were Ruckus known for producing? Ruckus Kennel.
Oh, Big John Blaze. They did him, they did a dog named Pacino. They had some really, really nice stuff, man, back in the day. You know what I'm saying? It was pretty nice. Um, I can remember the first time I even seen Blackjack, 21 Blackjack from Ed Shepherd. I mean, that dog was
Yeah.
phenomenal, man. You know what I'm saying? When I first seen him. So, but back to what I was saying though, they all started to get really extreme on the bully side. I can remember a dog here in my little town by the name of Junior, and the little dog had like he was lucky if he was 15 inches and had a head like a pumpkin. You know,
Hmm.
um,
So,
yes,
so
John
there
Blaze
was
was a
pockets
fawn.
back then.
He was like a wheat fawn. Really
So,
big boy, man.
so you had pockets back then, because most people when they
Oh
speak
man,
about
they were
the
pockets
American
before
bullies
they
back
even know
then,
what the
they speak
pocket
about
was. You
big
know?
dogs.
Yeah, they was not just these dogs were in existence forever. There actually was a kennel in Los Angeles, and this is way back, man, like early 90s, late 80s. And I want to say the name was Alvarado Kennels. And they advertised having like apartment sized dogs. And they were actually pit bulls, but they were tiny, man. They were like, some of the stuff that you would see from, some of the other kennels around that were producing really tiny dogs. These dogs were like maybe 14, 15, 16 inches, and this is way, I mean, it was a long time ago before the term was even developed pocket, you know what I'm saying? So, it was either Alvarado or Dagger kennels. I can't remember, but they had them back then. But as far as the evolution of the dog, man, I mean, it's progressing like anything else. When I first came in, we did a lot of shows in Los Angeles, so that's like 4 hours from me, and I had an opportunity to go down and see some of the dogs there. There were some pretty extraordinary dogs. Excuse me, but the real bully dogs, I think, were started really in California. I mean, they had really nice dogs back east, and I'm not trying to knock anybody, but the real crazy movement of producing really extreme dogs, I want to say, was in California. That's when you had all these guys. If you go back, that's where Gotti was at. You know, there was many guys out here that did all that crazy stuff. You know, there was Warren Newgood. There was a lot of guys, you know, that did that stuff. I'm trying to think. The lounge guys, they had some pretty extreme dogs. You know, they really did some really crazy stuff. And when I came into it, I was asked by Larry Duran to judge one of his shows. And believe it or not, that was a huge show, and it was held in the LA Fairplex. And that was the first time ever stepping into the show ring as far as being a judge. So I go back a long ways. Like I said, I've won prestigious shows in the AKC, which is the Great Western. I placed in the Nationals in the AKC with my AMSTAFs. I have dogs that have won in the UKC, dogs that have won in the ABKC. So I've watched it all develop and come a long ways, man.
So when was your first time hearing about, I guess, the bulldog being introduced into the American Bully line, in the American Bully lines? When was your first time hearing that, or probably seeing it? I don't know.
You know, what's crazy? It wasn't something that was talked about. You know, like today they don't talk about it. You know, now it's more. If you go now into the exotic side, they're openly talking about it. But back then there was not. People weren't openly talking about it, so it was all speculation and hearsay. You know, so but it didn't take a genetic engineer to see that something was added in there. You know, there was some special sauce. You know what I'm saying? You know, there was dogs out there, and there's no need to name them, but they're out there that were some of the foundation dogs that came in and made what it is today. And a lot of people are in denial of the fact that some of these dogs were used. And my perspective on that is like, it's if you were to get a whippet and a greyhound and breed them together, you know, selectively breed them, you're never going to get a greyhound or a whippet, you know, that's going to have 3 more inches on the chest, take 2 inches off the nose, and bone them up. It's just not going to happen. You're saying those traits have to be introduced into the line somewhere. And I'm not saying that it's not impossible, but it's a long road. And if you go back and look at, like I said, some of the old stock, especially in California, there was a lot of dogs that were really extreme dogs versus what a normal pit bull and an AMSTAF looked like.
Another thing I wanted us to talk about, like, you know, we've had conversations, and it was something you mentioned. You mentioned the American Bully being the poor man's breed. Can you like elaborate on like what you mean by that? Because
that goes back to its cousins. You know, that goes all the way back to the pit bull. When the first pit bulls were starting to be developed here in the United States and stuff, it wasn't really the prestigious guy. It was a lot of the poor folk that had the dog. You know, they were called the nursemaid's dog. They were on the ranches and the farms, and you know, they were so trustworthy that they would go work the fields and leave the children with the dogs. But they knew the dogs would care for the animal. There's a great book by Diane Jessup called The Working Pit Bull, and it's got a great history of the breed. And it's one of those things where the dog was, honestly, it was a very stable temperament dog. It had a great demeanor, had great relationships with his family. So it was always a poor man's dog. You know, there was not a lot of rich people. Back in them days, they were more chasing after the Great Dane and the Harlequin, you know, that other fancy stuff, where the people in the backwoods and stuff, we were out there with the game dog, the pit bulls, and the original dogs were all pretty much game dogs. They were not introduced in the show ring till later. You know, even people don't realize this, but even in the AKC AMSTAFs, the early AMSTAFs were actually game dogs. And it's kind of crazy because I remember talking to a lady years ago in the AKC, and she has been doing this for eons. And she told me, she goes, Ron, you know something? We would show them we would fight them on Friday night and show them on Saturday. And that was her exact term. You know, she was telling me, and I was kind of shocked over the whole thing. But there are some AKC lines in the early days that were very hot, you know, but now with time, we've slowly bred that temperament out of the dogs. They're not as gamey as they used to be. You know, some people still like that. And I think it's a good thing because you have to have good drive on your dogs. Because, you know, for a show dog, you want that drive and that attitude of being very confident and positive. And I think we're losing that in the show ring. There's a lot of dogs that are lacking confidence in the show ring today.
Yeah, that's true within the bully community. Manuel, I'm going to ask him your question. One thing I want to lead to in regards to the poor man's breed, you know, one thing we've talked about is the Rogue, me being part of Rogue Bully Science Rogue, and the whole health thing we're pushing with the breed. And that's when you kind of, you brought something up that made good sense, which is you basically said, like, it's nothing wrong with teaching people, but remember where this breed was started from, which is the poor man's breed. And you have to, and which is something I try to tell people as I try to introduce, I learn more about health testing and trying to introduce it into my dogs and the community. I think a lot of people that are new to this breed don't understand that you have to understand where this breed come from, and you have to respect the culture and the history of this breed. This breed was a breed that really, to me, started in the streets. And no matter how much sophisticated and how much suits you put on it, which is a good thing, you're always going to have the influence of the streets, or, for example, what you say, the poor man's influence in it. So how do you think, as we get more, as this breed grows, how do you think the introducing health into the poor man's, I guess, poor man or the culture's mentality, do you think that's possible? They can work that in there in the future?
That's something that has been sought after for years. The AKC and the UKC have tried pushing it, and it's been a real difficult road. It's one of those things where it's a lot of times, like I said, like I said, when you're going back to the poor man's dog, is a lot of these people, they sometimes they barely got enough means to feed their own dogs. And as popular as the breed is, I mean, it's probably one of the most popular dogs or overpopulated breeds in the United States, and it's going worldwide. And with that being said, not all those people have that kind of money to do all the testing and stuff. So it's one of those things that's it's going to be a hard road. I mean, there's all the right intentions behind it and stuff, but as far as getting everybody to get on the board on testing that, it's going to be tough. Again, like I say, if you look at,
I think that's a realistic answer you're giving, and that's why a lot of people that come that are new to the breed are coming from other breeds that are very hardcore about them. I kind of like, to me, you have to be understanding of who you're dealing with, and you have to understand that this is something that's not going to change overnight. So that's why I wanted to kind of speak to you about that, because we've talked on the phone, and you've explained to me, Hakim, you have to understand the culture and the history, and you have to respect it. And it's not going to be something that's gonna, like, it's not going to be easy, because like you said, this is something that's been tried before, and it's still a battle. Manuel asks a question. He says, if I can ask a question, I hear Mr. Ramos bred a classic and exotic to produce Grand Champion Cookie owned by Jamie Ross. Wondering if that's true.
That's true. I did do that. I bred a dog, but it was actually a co-breeding. It was a co-breeding with a very good friend of mine.
He said, "How did you come up with this?" He said, "How did you come about strategizing those combinations? How did you come up with that?"
That's something I've been doing for many, many years. I've been always taking a very clean bitch to extreme males. I've always done that. And, like any other breeder, sometimes you hit a home run and sometimes you strike out. But I've always done extreme to the clean. And when I did that, but the thing is, when I do that, is I don't compromise on the stud dog. I try to find an extreme stud dog, but I always try to make sure that he is as correct as possible for being what he is. I don't just go chase a head. I don't go just chase a rear. I try to find a dog that has a complete package and utilize that dog.
Angelo says, how healthy can you think the American Bully will ever be?
What's that now?
Angelo says, how healthy can you say the American Bully will ever be, in your opinion?
That's up to the public. As far as what I deem as being healthy is it's going to be difficult. It's one of those things where, you have to, you really have to. It's going to be a long process. You're going to have to push hard, and even like I said today, even in the other registries, they're still pushing hard trying to get people to test, and the numbers have dwindled in those registries. And the following stuff has broken off, so it's not as high and as feverish as the American Bully right now. Right now, the American Bully's on fire.
Very, yeah, yeah.
As far as
American,
health testing,
yeah,
it's going to be, like I said again, it's going to be a tough road. I mean, if you go back and you look at the UKC and the AKC, they're still struggling to get everybody to health test. But here's the ironic thing, and I'm not trying again. I'm not trying to say don't health test. I'm saying that you can have two dogs that are health tested, and they will still pass on that genetic trait, whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where it's a difficult thing. There's dogs that I have seen dogs that failed in the UKC, and then they were bred, and they never produced for example, a dysplastic dog. I've seen dogs that have passed their test, their hips, and produced dysplastic dogs. So it's one of those things where it's a catch-22. Is it the right thing to do? Yes, it's the right thing to do. So you can eventually weed out those dogs, but that gene will still be in there. God willing, it'll take years because they're still fighting it and trying to eliminate it in the other breeds.
Do you think that's why the registries within American Bully have not really enforced that, because they know it's something with the excitement within the community, the growth of the American Bully. By going that route, there's a chance you can kind of affect that, kind of like with the I guess the other registries you've described. I mean, do you think that's why they choose to not really push on that, because they don't want to, I guess, cut into the
Well,
cut into the
the sad
excitement?
thing is, the sad thing is, it's one of those things where they can push on it, but again, it's on the public, that's going to do it. You know,
Yeah,
um, for years and years and years. Like I'll give you an example. And I'm going to take a guess at this, but I can almost guarantee that the UKC pit bull has been recognized for 135 years, more or less. And they are still fighting. The thing of actually getting people to get their dogs health tested.
testing.
So it's one of those things where it's going to be a hard road. And the other thing is, I think a lot of these guys that are right now that are doing this and they're pushing hard for the dollars, is that they're afraid that if they put their dogs out to be tested and stuff, that they're going to lose, that funding that they get from all their animals. If I got a dog that's a heavy hitter, and I come out tomorrow and say, my dog does plastic or something, that's not going to happen. That's their gravy train right now. So you're being realistic. A guy that's getting, 5K a pup or whatever he's getting, even 2,500 a pup, he's not gonna bite the hand that feeds him. So it's one of
Yeah,
those things where it's a difficult thing. It's the same thing applies to show ring. A lot of guys have nice dogs, but they're afraid to put their dog in the show ring because if they don't win in the show ring, they feel they're going to lose that stud fee or that value of that dog. So it's a catch-22. You know what I mean? So it implies every way, and then again, it goes back to the part of being a monetary thing. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's crazy. Like I love the show ring. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's dogs. I've seen dogs that need to be in the show ring, but they will never go because they're afraid to lose that status of their dog being this or that, and they're going to lose that payday. So, like I said, and it shouldn't be that way. And the sad thing is, a lot of times champion dogs are undervalued.
hmm another thing I always wanted to ask, you've been around. You hear a lot of guys from back in the day, I guess, back in early beginnings of the American Bully, that said the bullies nowadays are the downfall of the breed. They can't compare to the older dogs. I just spoke to somebody like who? What would you say in your opinion? Do you think the evolution or whatever, because it is a difference. I had dogs in the mid 2000s, bullies, and I have bullies now. And I look at my bully back then, which was a Remy son, and I have females now that look like 2 times his size, look more male than him. So in your opinion, do you think those older the guys from back in the day, are they right when they say dogs nowadays are not as good as dogs back in the day? And that's going to lead up to, once you answer that, that's going to lead up to Manuel's
Well,
question.
I'll put it to you this way: when I came from the UKC AKC into the American Bully world, they were saying the same thing. They were saying, "Oh, we were considered the exotic." When we came into the American Bully, they all were telling me, "Oh, Ron, you're going over there. You're basically you're dancing with the devil. These guys are no good. They're not going to be anything of them, and there was no stopping them. There was no stopping the American Bully. You know, has it gotten worse? That's a double-edged sword. It depends on how you look at it. Yeah, there's been dogs that are now that they're putting out that are very extreme. That are, I don't need to tell you. You can just look at the dog yourself, and you'll see that you're going to see they're going to be a problematic dog eventually. So it's one of those things where they are having issues, because they are going too far. There is such a thing as too far, and whether guys want to believe that or not, that's the reality. There is such a thing as too far. And again, we can't blame registries. We can sit here and tell the registry's got to do this, the registry's got to do that. Now, I will tell you this. If I were to go tell you, Hakeem, you need to do this with your dog. You need to do that with your dog. You're going to look at me like, man, you feed my dogs, Papa Pit? No, I don't feed your dogs. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, people don't like to be told what to do, and it's a situation where it's more of how much you respect the dog. It's not the registry. It's do you respect the breed? As breeders, we are stewards of the breed. It's our duty to do the best for the breed. It's not our duty to do best for the registry. It's for the breed. The registries only register the dogs as far as keeping track of lineage. They can't police you. I hear all the time about doing DNA testing. DNA testing, unless you send out the DNA police to test the dogs, it's not going to happen because it's on the honor system. And there's guys that are saying, well, it'll work. We'll send them to a veterinary doctor. Okay, that's an added cost. You got to pay the office visit. You got to pay for the DNA test now. And for some reason, a lot of these people are afraid to put out that extra dollar. But I can understand because a lot of these guys don't have one dog. They have, 12 dogs. And everything becomes very expensive. But that's where you got to learn your limitations. I have a big yard, and I never have no more than 12 dogs. And I have maybe 4 breeding dogs. The rest are old, retired, but there are people that I don't need to tell you that have 30 dogs, 40 dogs. And, when you start doing numbers like that, it becomes very expensive.
So, but do you think if you have a registry that's on the level of UKC, let's say ABKC, and they say, look, I'm not going to register your litter or your dog unless you do this. Do you think that would that affect their numbers? If they make it mandatory, like
it will affect the numbers. You know why? They'll go to another registry. They'll go to another registry.
Right, there's a lot of registries popping up right now.
And that's what's going to happen. You tell me what I'm going to do. It's okay. Thank you very much. I'll go knock on the neighbor's door now. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, again, if you mandate stuff, they're just going to go where they can do as they please. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So it's one of those things where no matter what the registry is, it falls back upon the shoulders of the breeders and the owners and those people that are buying dogs. So it's one of those things where it's a tough situation, man.
Manuel says, what's your answer on producing drive back into the American Bully correctly without jeopardizing in other areas?
Oh, that now?
Manuel says, what's your answer on producing drive back into the American Bully without jeopardizing in other areas? How do you bring the drive back without losing certain things?
Well, that goes back to people don't realize when they're breeding dogs. If you breed a dog that has a shy temperament, guess what? That's a genetic trait. And a lot of guys don't know that. If you got a dog that's extremely shy and you breed it to another dog, it's going to pass that trait on. And that's why if you look at guys that do working dogs, they do Shih Tzu, they do the Malinois, German Shepherds, Rottweilers, their focus is on drive on the dogs. It's health. Don't get me wrong. They're looking at health. But if they got a shy dog, let me tell you what, man, that's the first dog they're going to send out, man. They don't have nothing to do with no shy dogs or dogs that lack confidence. And in our world, we don't even look at it. And I think that's a bad thing to do because we're producing right now. There's a lot of dogs that you get them in the show ring and they're not only lacking drive, but a lot of them are shy. You walk up to the dog and it's kind of looking at you all scared and cowering down a little bit, and I think that's something that we really got to look at. And part of that is, again, back to the breeding. You know, there was a reason why they outlawed marrying your sister or your cousin, because eventually you get too tight and you start to lose scruples, and you know there are a lot of things that can happen. I mean, it's supposed to be a tool, but when you do it to an excess, then you're running into problems.
Yeah. So I mean, do you think does that lead back to what some of those older guys are saying, where we've lost certain things? The bullies nowadays can't compare to the bullies back in the day. Is that one of the things where you feel like the bullies nowadays have can't hold the same weight as the bullies back in the day when it comes down to the not the aggressiveness but the confidence? Can you hear me?
You're breaking up a little bit, but I got the gist of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um, I think what happened is you if you compare numbers, in other words, back in the day, as they say, you know, there was not as many dogs as there is today. You know, if you were to go back 10 years ago, the numbers have probably tripled in comparison with what the stock was originally done back in the day. You know, and so if you were looking at ratios, yeah, there's a lot more dogs that are having problems, but I don't know if it's any more than there was back then. You know, because the ratio, because like I said, there may have been and I just get through a fictional number there may have been 100,000 dogs. Now there's 400,000 dogs. So it's going to be more prevalent, and they're going to be able to see it more. So you know what I'm saying. So with that being said,
Yeah.
you know, are they getting better? I don't know. That's where a lot of times, you know, some of you got these dogs that were outcrossed, and what I mean by outcrossed, literally some other type of breed. And believe it or not, sometimes that strengthens, because what happens then, you're washing out the blood. You know, if you keep going tight, 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 you know, you don't really clean out some of the faults and the problems in the breed. So with the inbreeding and line breeding, you're also locking in the bad traits. So with that being said, sometimes it's always good to find a dog with a phenotype, in other words, the same look and style of body, and then bring that back into your program, but total outcross, totally from a different line, totally. You know, so that way you still have that look. You know, you don't want to bring in a real little terrier dog. You bring in a dog that has a lot of substance size, and you're bringing it into your program, and you're washing, in a sense, you're washing that blood. You're bringing something new in to try to break away and get rid of some of those faults on there and stuff. But the thing is, that dog has to be of superior quality to breed back into your line.
Uh, I'm gonna ask another question, but this is a question from Robert McCormick. What age should you stop breeding your female dog?
You're breaking up, man.
What age should you stop breeding your
You're breaking
female
up.
dog? Can you hear me? Still not nothing?
What
Can you hear
age do
me?
I stop breeding?
A female dog.
Yeah, what age do I stop breeding? Okay, well, you know that's a question of health on the dog. Some dogs recover really well. You can breed the dog, bounce right back, look like it's never been bred, real healthy dog. You know, I can see breeding a dog like that, you know, later in age. But I don't start breeding dogs until later in age anyway. Most of my dogs, when I get bred, are roughly 2 years old when I breed a dog. You know, very close to, you know, I don't do a first, second, even a third sometimes I don't do it. I wait till they're much older. So as far as age, I think it's a question of health on the dogs. How well do they recuperate from having a litter? You know what I'm saying? I've seen dogs in the Amstaff world that were bred way later in age. And what I mean by later in age, I'm talking like 8 years old, you know. But the thing is, those dogs were well kept, great health, and they were not overbred. So it's one of those things where you have to be able to look at your dog and realize and say, you know, something that dog pretty broke down already. I better not breed her no more. You know, no matter how well she produces, you know, it's one of those things that it becomes a thing of overdoing it, and you got to give that dog opportunity to rest. I mean, I do maybe one or two breedings of my dogs, and they're done. You know, I got them here. They're here till they die. You know, it's one of those things. But I don't. I mean, there's been times where I've been really tempted. Oh, man, I want to do one more breeding, one more breeding. But you know, something you got to step back and say, you know, that enough is enough, and that's good. You know what I'm saying? And that's where, if you do it right, you take if you got something that good, of a bitch that is that good, you make sure you get one of her top puppies out of her, one of her top
Mhm.
females out of her, and you hold on to that puppy to continue with that breeding. You know, it's one of those things where it's really crucial to find a great bitch that produces great dogs and that will recover. And if you really like that line, you better hold on to something out of that. Even a couple of dogs out of that female because that's going to be what replaces her. You know, you got to be smart about it. You know, you really got to work on it. You got to really study on it. You just don't breed and, you know, to anything. You know, if you're going to put your name on the dog, you know, take some pride in your name. If I put my name on the dog, I want to make sure that it's something that people will look back and say, that's a Papa Pit dog. You know, I don't want somebody to say, yeah, that's a Papa Pit dog. Wow, look at that piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's one of those things where you want to make sure you do the right thing. And when you got females that are of great quality, make sure that you take a pup that was really thought after when you did that breeding, that you make sure you got a great stud on that bitch and you take a pup from that and you hold on to that girl. But that's going to be your future breeding stock. You know, you can't, as much as we like to hold on to those girls that produce great, there's going to be a time where we can't breed them no more. And if you didn't prepare for them going into retirement, then you fell short of what your duty was supposed to be. So it's one of those things where when you do that, you got to make sure that you hold on to something that's going to be the replacement of the animal. And that's why, like, I do my breedings. I don't do a lot of breedings. I maybe do one a year, maybe two a year. But it's usually because I'm replacing something. Something's getting tired or old. So I take that dog and I'm going to retire it, but I make sure that I got something out of it to continue that line. You know, again, I've had dogs that I wish I could have had all their lives, but they were such great producers. But the thing is, that's not being realistic. So you always have to prepare for putting those dogs into retirement and bringing that next female into the program that's going to replace her. I have example. I have a dog out there. Ramos is one tough cookie. I have kept out of that girl probably already 6 generations out of that girl, you know, and every one of those girls have produced very nicely for me, you know. So I'm to the point now where, since I don't do very many breedings, it's really taking a toll on my breeding program sometimes, because I really have to struggle to find something to hold on to it, because like I said, I don't do a lot of breedings. And when I was judging for so many years, when I judged hard for 14 years. That really took a toll, because females don't wait for you to come back. You know, when you're traveling, they're in heat, and that's a time-sensitive thing. So once they ain't gonna wait for you, brother. Okay, I'll wait for you to come back with the breeding. No, if you're not there, you missed it. You know what I'm saying? So for 14 years, I was probably gone almost at least 3 weekends a month, and that really took a toll on the breeding. So I'm coming back now, and I'm really happy with what I'm doing. But it's very tough. You know, I don't have a lot of breeding stock, so it's slow. But I've always been that way. I don't do a lot of breedings, but it's just meticulous trying to get that flow back in there again.
You know, the next thing we before we spoke on that, you were speaking about people inbreeding too much, or you know, like Dax. I saw a post earlier today where they say Dax had, I think they said Dax had over 1,000 offsprings within the American Bully breed. And the question was Dax, because of all those puppies, is Dax the standard for the breed? How do you feel Dax being, a lot of Dax has been inbred, line bred, whatever, bred within the American Bully community? Do you think Dax was a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, you know, I don't want to use just the word Dax, because you know I don't like singling out a single animal and you know, and roasting them. It's one of those things. It's one of those things where, again, that's what they called in the UK. They had one called the popular dog syndrome. And I'll give you an example. I believe I think it was a golden retriever or a Labrador that back in the 60s or 50s, whatever it was a very, very popular dog, and they bred the hell out of that dog. And years later, they come to find out that there was a lot of genetic problems, and they narrowed it all the way back down to this one single dog. You know, so was Dax something that was a good tool? I definitely think he was a great tool. You know, there's a lot of dogs that are tools, that they're to be implemented wisely and with the right pairing up. You know, then you just don't take dogs and, you know, you just because you got a dog in heat, you're gonna breed it. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't work. The thing is, it's the thing of being selective of how you're gonna use that blood. I mean, there's a lot of dogs that will never be champions, that will never hit the show ring, but are great producers. And there are champion dogs that will never produce anything that is worthy. So it's one of those things where it's a matter of understanding what you're doing, and it takes years. even myself, I consider myself a lifelong student of breeding in the dogs, because it's evolving so fast that it's one of those things where it's not like where you go to an AKC dog, and if you get two AKC dogs, and 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 they're very selective, but even at that, you could probably almost slam two of those together, and you're going to get amazing dogs. If you put two show quality dogs together, they're going to get it. But that blood has been established for hundreds of years, so it's gonna produce like a cookie cutter. Where ours is constantly changing. There has not been a. I cannot say that I can say where you go and say, oh, every one of these dogs is going to look the same. There's so much deviation in the look of the dog, and I think that's going to take years. And it's not a. And it's not. And I'm not slamming the dog. I'm just saying it's evolving. Again, I
So like,
reflect back to the AKC UKC because that's 135 years old, and what are we? We're maybe 30 years old at the most.
so
You know what I'm saying? So
what
how are you
I'm
going to
getting from
compare
you
that? You know
is
what I'm saying?
we need to be realistic, is what you're saying. Like, we need to be realistic
Yeah,
that,
it
like you
is. You
said,
have to be real
we're
about
not
it. You know what I'm saying? You know,
135 years. And I think a lot of people need to hear that, because a lot of people really, for some reason, expect the American Bully to look one way. And I've, I haven't been in as long as you, but to me, it's common sense. This is, like you said, 20 to 30 years. How do you expect one look in 20, 30 years when you have dogs that you say have been around for hundreds of years, and it took hundreds of years for them to get their look? I never understood why people are so big on we have no one look for American Bully right now.
and actually, you're right. Actually, there's too many variables. But that what happens there, what causes that is everybody has their own concept of what they want, and they're not really sticking to the blueprint. So it's a hard thing. And if you look at some of these guys that are breeding, they're trying to produce something that is not. They don't care about the standard. They just want to produce the next wow factor. They don't care if it's got three legs or four legs, just so long as it's something different. So it's one of those things where it's one of those things where we have to take ownership and eventually do this right. And that's where the show ring comes into play. That actually narrows the look down on these dogs. So that's what basically the show ring is all about, to be honest. It's one of those things where the more people see this look, it's going to be the look of the day. So even when I was judging shows, my mantra was the dogs I champion today will be the breeding stock of tomorrow. So I was very diligent about what I picked to be a winner. Because you think about it, everybody in that atmosphere of the show ring, they want to be that dog. So when that dog wins, well, I'm going to breed to that dog. He's a champion. He's winning. So I know I'm going to get it from him. No, you don't. What people don't understand is that on the dogs, on a male dog, everybody puts so much emphasis on the male dog that he's given all the glory when it's a great litter, and he takes all the heat when it's a bad litter. But what people don't realize when they go to these dogs, and they think that dog's going to give them everything, it's only a penis, not a magic wand. So it's one of those things where I'm being real about it. And a lot of people are like, oh man, I'm going to get that out of the dog. They can't see past the dog in front of them.
I agree. I agree. I think it's going to take time, and I think people have to understand and be patient. But again, you got to remember, again, this is a breed that's built of excitement. People come in excited, buy dogs without really researching, and it's a very exciting breed. Another question I want to ask you is, you coming from being around so long, marketing. A lot of the old guys says the marketing and people branding and making it more business is destroying it. What do you think? Making it more commercial, marketing and business. What do you think?
Say that again. I'm sorry, you kept breaking up.
So a lot of the older guys say nowadays people trying to make it more of a marketing thing, branding, making it more business like, making it more commercial is destroying the breed. What do you think?
Well, something, man. Something they always said, money's the root of all evil, man. But something. But what's crazy is that there's guys that are after the money, but they're still passionate about the dogs. So that's it. That's tilting the scales. What I'm saying? There are guys that are sure we're after the money because it's an expensive hobby. It's not a cheap hobby, man. So you got to make ends meet. And there are a lot of breeders that just strictly do it for money, and they can say, and it's funny because some of these people that are literally puppy millers, people idolize and look up to. You know, and it's one of those things where if you really look at somebody, and if you really look at them hard, and they're producing 6 to 8 litters a year, that's a little overkill, man. You know, I
Mhm.
don't care what you say. Uh, that's way too much. Where do all these puppies go to? You know, and they don't understand also is that when you do that by flooding the market, you hurt everybody's pocket. You know, the value of the animal begins to go down. You know, and it really hurts the breed. And there is a lot of guys that are great marketing guys, and you know, and that's part of it. It's a business nowadays, to be honest with you. Before it was a hobby, and everybody you know bred dogs to pretty much support the hobby. But nowadays, it's become an income. If you really look at some of these guys, a lot of guys right now aren't even working anymore. They're living off the dog. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where it has become a big business, and everybody's marketing. Look at Facebook. Everybody's got a live feed. Everybody's pushing the product. Everybody's doing this. You know, at one time before, you know, you had to watch what you said. Now there's guys getting on there and they're talking, and it's like, man, do you people really believe this stuff? It's amazing. You know, they don't even know terminology. You know, and they're talking about the dog. And oh, I got dogs that are perfect structures. I mean, you look at the dog, he's putting up like, oh my God, are you serious? You know, and again, these are guys that they're hustling. You know, that's their hustle.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, be sharp about it. Look, do your homework. There's some good breeders out there. You know, it's just a matter of looking for them. And not all great breeders are heavy hitter people. You'd be surprised how many of the little guys are great breeders. You know, but they're obscured because they don't got that knowledge of that concept of how to market themselves. So they're out there, and you got to look for them, but don't always buy the hype. You know, I always say that a lot of these guys are like used car salesmen. You know, they walk around, kick the tires, and tell you it's a great car. You know, but the thing is, same thing applies in the dog world. Uh, it's become very heavily marketed, but like I said, if you're smart and you look around, you'll find what you're looking for.
Brandon has a question. It says, "What advice would you give a new person coming into this community to be successful?"
Man, you know something. You know, I would honestly say, you know, really do your homework as far as don't if you're gonna come to this breed, don't come out and buy the first fat fluffy puppy you see. I would say to people, see as many litters as you can. Go to your newspaper and look at as many litters as you can. Start to develop an eye. That's one of the most important things I can tell you that people don't do. When they first get into this, they go out and buy a puppy, or some guy talks them into a puppy and they buy this puppy. I say, you know something, do some homework. And what I mean by homework, I don't mean by going on the internet and looking at, you know, different profiles and all that. That's part of it. But I'm saying though, learn what you're looking at. Go to a dog show or go to many different yards. Look at the different varieties. You know, study these things. You know, look at these dogs. You know, it takes years sometimes to develop an eye to understand what you're looking at, because a lot of times when you're looking at dogs, you know, all you see when you first get there and you're first learning, like again, you just see that first, you know, oh, he's a lilac, he's a fluffy, fat little guy. Oh, I'm in love with the dog. But you never really looked at the dog's structure, you know,
Or
and
its
that's
history.
where you have to do your part and learn this stuff. And again, it doesn't happen overnight. The other thing is, new people for some reason they cannot wait to give their money to you. You know, it burns a hole in their pocket, man. You know, it's one of those
Hmm.
things where some take your time. I probably talk more people out of buying puppies for me than I've sold puppies, because I'm always telling them, you know, do this, do that, look at this, you know, because I want them to be content with what they get. You know, and the other thing, a lot of people will say, well, can you guarantee me a show dog? And I tell them, no, I can't guarantee that. You know, I can give you a dog that's a show perspective. For the reason being is that I don't know what's going to happen once the dog leaves my yard. I don't know if he's going to be treated well. I don't know if he's going to get the right, you know, feed. You know, there's a lot that goes into play into bringing a dog into the show ring. And it does start at the breeder, but it also continues after he leaves the breeder. So it's a tough thing, man. Like I said, it's become more and more like a business than it has been a hobby.
Yeah, you know, my wife just had a baby, so she just texted me and asked for some water, so I have to take her some water. You hear me, Ron? Yeah,
You're a
that's what
good
I just
man.
did. Yeah, so I just go upstairs and take her some water. But I'm trying to read some of these questions. I've seen the game get watered down by some. Used to be very respected breeders, and now aren't producing like before, but only selling because they're back. The day's track record. I don't really understand this question, but I guess another thing I wanted to ask is when it comes down to breeders today, what do you think? Do you think the market is oversaturated with people, everybody trying to be breeders? Do you think it's too many people trying to be breeders right now today? And was it like that back in the day?
No, you know something? There wasn't that many breeders, man. And I'm gonna tell you why there wasn't that many breeders. And it goes back to social media. You know, back in the day, if you wanted to see a dog, you literally had to jump on an airplane or drive 3 states over to see the dog if you want to see it, or you would wait for a picture to come in the mail to breed the dog. So it wasn't so available to you. You know, nowadays we're into the fast food mentality. You know, we want things right now, so we go out and we do all that stuff. You know, but back in the day, that didn't happen, man. I mean, it was, you know, there was not that much marketing as there is now. There was literally, you know, you had to buy a Bloodline magazine. I don't know if anybody remembers the Bloodline magazines, but you know, you had to go out and buy a Bloodline magazine to look at dogs, or you would go buy a Dog World magazine out of one of the pet stores, and you look in the back of the ads there, and you find somebody that was breeding dogs. Nowadays, you know, you one touch of the button, and you can see 1,000 dogs. You know, so it's become very marketable, and it's easier and more accessible to reach all these dogs. So, you know, it was a lot tougher than to get dogs out there. You know, and that's why I think that they were probably, I was going to say, a little more consistent. And then again, like I said, when everybody started going to the extreme, everybody wanted to establish a name and make their own bloodlines. You know, I've been doing this forever, and you know, I still don't have a bloodline. It doesn't really. I'm not that. I don't need that. You know, I'm happy producing a wow factor dog than being the Papa Pit bloodline. You know what I'm saying? It's not that important to me. I would like to produce something that's going to be a wow factor, that's going to have everything balanced. You know, everything that I want in a dog. You know, structure, size, you know, the whole 9 yards. And a lot of times, the guys that are like that, you know, we're chasing the golden child.
Yeah, I remember that too, Ash, the MSN board. That's when I first got in. That's the only way I could like.
I tell you, Ash, I miss the MSN boards, Ash. Those were killer. Those were great, man.
I remember back then, like you had to be like, for you to be noticed, like it was very
You're breaking
hard.
up.
Like for you to be noticed back in the day on the MSN board,
You're
like
breaking
you had
up.
to be. Can you hear me now?
Hold your hand up, man. You're breaking up.
What about now?
You keep going in and out.
Hold on one second. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello? Ron, can you hear me?
I got you now, man.
Okay, you can hear me now?
No, you're still breaking up. Go stand on the roof.
Let me move. Can you hear me now? Still can't hear me?
You keep breaking up. I don't know. Is anybody else there see him breaking up, or is it just me?
Can you guys hear me? Everybody says that they can hear me. You still can't hear me, Ron? Hello, can you hear me?
Maybe I gotta move.
Yeah, I think you probably you.
It's probably me. Hold on, let me see. And you're making me take the show on the road.
They say you need some Wi-Fi.
No, I don't do Wi-Fi out here, man. I'm so far in the country. Hold on, give me a second.
All right. Sometimes with live,
Is this any better?
You just have to. Yeah, I can hear you real good. I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me now?
Okay. I got you, man.
So Stephanie brings up a good point. Stephanie O'Brien is actually from your area, California. She's somebody I met within the past 2 years, new to the American Bully breed. She says, what's your opinion on Photoshop? Her being new to the breed, I guess some people might have misled her with photoshopped pictures. That goes back to what you were saying, where nowadays people, because of Facebook and the social media and internet, people don't have to fly out. So that gives people a good reason to mislead people. How do you feel about Photoshop within the American Bully breed?
Well, you're gonna laugh at me, man, and probably I'm probably the only guy in the whole world that doesn't know how to Photoshop pictures. I've heard of people saying they stretch them. Yeah, they say they stretch them, they do this, that. But I'll tell you what I'll do in mine when I do a picture. I may enhance the lighting on it. It may be too dark, so guess what? I'll lighten the picture up, or I may, try to make the color pop more. But the thing is, as far as like back in the old days where people literally stretch pictures and all that, I haven't seen that in years. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, are they doing it? I'm sure that there are people that are doing it. You know what I'm saying? And that's a great point right there, Stephanie. I'm a firm believer on sending videos too. We're in the day and age that you want to see the dog? I'm going to see a video. Let's go live. And I don't have a problem with that, issue with that. And I think that's what people need to do more often, because I think that we are at a time now that you shouldn't have to wait for a picture to come in. They're that intent on selling you a dog. Let's go live. Let me see those puppies live. You know what I'm saying? And if they don't want to do that, then there might be a problem. That's where the issue may be right there then.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I guess another thing I want to ask is when it comes down to showing, what advice would you give people when it comes out to showing their dogs? Because I think a lot of people, and you said you don't sell any puppy guaranteeing that the dog will be a show quality dog. And I think especially I've seen this with the international buyers. They buy a dog, and I think because of the lack of education and not understanding that the breed is still growing and we're all learning as we go, they get mad when they buy a dog that doesn't turn out. What would be your advice to a person that's buying a bully based on the show ring, looking to show their dog in the ring? Is there any way you can give them advice on what they should look for?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm fixing my tripod here.
All right. Yeah, Stephanie, I don't know how to use Photoshop myself. The most I do is take the picture.
When you're buying a show dog, let me tell you what happens a lot of times. You would be surprised how many times I've been in the show ring, and when I first started doing all the judging, and their dog wouldn't win, and they would come up to me and they would say, "Well, don't you know that this dog is off of the greatest dog ever, and I paid $5,000 for the dog." Well, I'm sorry, that doesn't make he's going to make him a champion. So just because it came out of that dog and you paid the next amount of dollars, it does not guarantee that your dog is going to be a champion dog. It's one of those things where that's where you need to understand what you're looking at. And that's why I say learn to develop an eye of what you're looking at, and understand what a confident dog is supposed to look like. So it's one of those things where, as far as show ring, if you're a first time coming in here, you really got to, like I said, you got to learn what you're looking at. Learn what a great temperament dog is. They're going to try to sell anything they want to sell you. Because that's what they're doing. They're trying to make their money. And the other thing is, once you get the dog, it's up to you now to take lead and train the dog. He's not going to become a show champion when you take him out of the backyard once every, I'm telling you, I have people go to the show ring and I ask them, "Do you ever walk the dog?" Well, I keep them in the backyard. Well, guess what? If you never talk, they don't even clean them. They bring them to the show ring. You're lucky they've been cleaned. They're lucky they've been walked at all. And the only time they take them out is for a show. And then they're pissed off because they don't win a show. But I have to say the mentality is changing. People that are in the show ring today are more diligent about working and training and stacking, which is a good thing. It's good to see that is evolving. That's headed in the right direction. But there's still many that think that their dog is going to win just by taking the show ring. And as far as showing, the other thing I would tell people is that I've had a lot of people that come to me and tell me, Ron, in the backyard, man, in my backyard, man, he stacks, he gates and everything. I call those dogs backyard champions. And the reason I call them a backyard champion is because they never taken the dog out of the backyard and acclimated them to a different area. So when I trained my dogs, when I was training show dogs, I would take them over to the schoolyard. I would take them to the where there's a baseball game going on. I would take these dogs everywhere except for my backyard to work them. I worked them in the backyard, but I made sure that I took them to different environments. I would take them to Petco, lumberjack, stack the dog in lumberjack. I mean, not lumberjack, but Lowe's or Home Depot. Take the dog in there with me. I stack the dog. People come up and say, "Oh, what are you doing?" So I'm teaching them to be comfortable in different areas. Will you please touch my dog? Let me stack them up and you touch them. You know what I mean? And that way the dog understood that he's not going to be harmed by other people. The other thing that we used to do a lot, and I don't know if anybody does it anymore, but we used to have a lot of mock shows. In other words, if you had a bunch of guys that lived in the same town with you, we'd all get together and say, "Hey, man, let's go to a park and let's do a mock show." We would pretend to have a show, and guess what, Hakeem? Today you're the judge. All right, man, I'm going to go over all the dogs. Okay, tomorrow, next weekend, Ron, you're the judge. We would take turn being the judge and going over every dog so that these dogs would understand that, oh, that's what I'm here for. Some dogs, they never been touched until they get them in the show ring. So it's one of the things where, it's not going to happen just because you think your dog is pretty or he's a clean dog. It takes training. You watch these dogs in the AKC and the UKC, especially the AKC. These dogs train for a long time before they hit the show ring. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things that it just doesn't happen.
Ash says, how do you feel about the upper arm and shoulder assembly of the American Bully?
It's that's a catch-22 question, because I'm telling you now, to look at dogs and to see an upper arm, I can tell you right now, you can ask a lot of people, what do you see in the upper arm? That's a real difficult question, and it takes many, many years to see what they're talking about. There's a lot of them, what you're trying to get at is they're short in the upper arm. Yeah, there's a lot of them that are short in the upper arm. But the thing is, it's like how I tell you, Hakeem, can you show me the upper arm on that dog? You're trying to x-ray that dog through fur, fat, and muscle. You know what I'm saying? So you're trying to evaluate skeletal structure without having an x-ray machine. So, it's one of those things that takes years and years to see movement, rear movement, angulation, upper arm, the croup, or the tilt of a pelvis. I mean, those things are, you're literally trying to see through an animal's body to see the skeletal structure. I understand what you're saying. There are a lot of dogs with a shorter upper arm, and that attributes to a lot of things. What happens in a dog when you have skeletal structure and there's flaws, it's cause and effect. In other words, if his nose is bent out of shape, it's gonna reciprocate all the way to the tip of his tail. So if you're a quarter of an inch off on the nose, by the time you get to the tail, he's gonna be 1 inch off. So the thing is, anything that happens in a dog is cause and effect. The ribs, for example, if he's too long, too short, and it's gonna complicate a lot of things. Overloaded in the shoulder. I see a lot of dogs that are overloaded in the shoulder, and a lot of people don't understand that. And what I mean by that, a lot of times, the way you can tell that is where the shoulders and the upper arm line up on the chest. In other words, their front legs are beyond the forefront of their chest, and they have what they call a sternum, or the point of the chest. And what happens is that chest should actually be protruding in front of the arms and not even with the arms. So there's a lot of things that you have to learn. That's what I'm telling you. It's not easy. It's a lot of years, man.
A question I have is, somebody was telling me, most canines, the way they're built to have high rears. Is that a true statement?
Well, I wouldn't say they're supposed to have a high rear. If you read the standard, it's gonna say a slight slope to the rear. In other words, it's gonna come down off the shoulders to the back to the withers and have a slight rise. People don't understand that a flat top line is not a correct top line, or a sloping down top line is not a correct top line. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where, it's not supposed to be a tabletop, and it's not supposed to be sloping downward. It's supposed to actually come down with a slight coming down into the rib cage, and then a slight rise to the loin. But what is a slight rise? It's an interpretation. That's the other thing. And that's what happens a lot of times. And I tell this to people, and everybody says, well, it's in the standard. And I always use it this way. If I were to tell you to read a verse in the Bible, and then you interpret it to me, your interpretation is going to be different than the next 10 guys. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, what is interpretation? And this is where, years ago, when I came into the ABKC, is I pushed really hard for them to make to commission artists to make a drawing, a rendition, because when you see a rendition, when you see it with your eyes, you read it, you know, you hear it, you learn better. You know, then you'll understand. You'll all be on the same page. But if I give you a roadmap and I tell you this is what it's got to look like, and without never visually seeing it, it's going to be everybody's interpretation. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be one person's interpretation, or it's not going to be what they want it to be. Maki, stop. So,
let me see. Crystal has a question. What's your take on extra teeth and bites?
What now?
What's your take on extra teeth and bites on the dog? Dogs having extra teeth and their bites. What, you know, how, I guess, what's your opinion on them?
On the bites, wow, you know, the whole thing about bites was back in the day when they started doing all this. The bite was because of the wear on the teeth. You know, if there's a misalignment on the teeth, it's going to play fault on the dogs. Their teeth are not going to wear right, and it's also good for eating. You know, you gotta mesh perfectly to eat that kibble. You know what I mean? So, you know, there was a judge that I knew back in the UKC days, and you know, the pit bull was always been a head breed. You know, it's always been a breed that it's supposed to be it's supposed to exemplify a beautiful headpiece. And I had a judge tell me years and years and years ago that they don't walk on their heads. You know, in other words, the head was important, but we forgot about the rest of the dog structure. You know, in today's bully, the bite is important, but it's not so important that we forget about the entire structure of the animal. You know, I've gone over the scenario with people before, and they tell me, Ron, you know, will a dog with a bad bite win? You know what I'm saying? And I says, it depends on the ring. You know, it's one of those things where if you look at the animal, you know, if you really think about it, okay, if I got, especially in the American Bully, if I got 5 dogs in the ring, right, I'm the judge. Okay, I got one dog it's got a tail that looks like a lightning bolt because it's got a kink in it. I got one that, you know, that looks like he's been rode hard by a fat man, so he's got a sway back. I got one that's got his feet turned out like he's got flippers, right? Then I got one that looks like a little skinny weenie dog. But guess what? I got a nice dog in there, and he's got a bad bite. So what am I supposed to do? I'm going to go with a dog with a bad bite for the reason being he's not walking around the ring like this. He's not smiling at you. You know, you're not going to see that. You're saying, and I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but what I'm trying to tell you, his faults are going to be minor in comparison to, you know, a sway back, no turn of the stifle, you know, easty westy. You know, so those are, to me, those are going to be more crucial on the overall health of the dog versus on the bite. Now, you know, we prefer to have a complete dog. That's what we're driving for. That's what our goal is, to get a dog that's a complete, good bite.
I think I think Ron froze a little.
Our desire is to get a dog that's balanced.
Okay,
but sometimes that's not going to be realistic. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's a great point, because, you know, you see a lot of people, how did that dog become a champ with an underbite? But nobody ever thinks about it. You didn't even see who the competition was in the ring with that dog. You don't know what he went against to become a champion. You know, but that was a great point. I really like what you just said. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, like, with me personally, when it comes out to putting breedings together, the phenotype comes first to me. How the dogs complement each other. Then I look at the dog's actual offspring, the consistency, how they produce. And if they have no productions on the ground, I look at their parents, the grandparents. Then I look at pedigree. Pedigree is one of the last things I look at, because to me,
you know, that's a valid point. You know, so because a lot of times, like I said, it goes back to that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it goes back to that impressive show, that impressive stud. A lot of people, when they start looking for stud, we'll use a stud for an example, because he gets all the heat. You know, stud gets the credit if it's a great breeding. He gets broke down because it's a bad breeding. But here's it is, and it's a valid point, because people can never get past looking at the dog in front of them. It's not just him. You know, he may have been an anomaly. He may have been the freak of the entire litter, and everybody else behind him is a weenie dog. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, you got to go back and you got to look at his parents, his grandparents, and his siblings, if possible. And that's going to give you somewhat of a roadmap of the consistency of the animal. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where you cannot take for granted what's standing in front of you. You know, that may be the one phenomenal freak of the whole litter.
I feel the dog's production will let you know if the pedigree is legit or not. Like to me, the production, the puppies on the ground will let you know based on the consistency if that pedigree behind that dog's legit or not. Am I right in
Well,
thinking that?
that's a double-edged sword. Because remember now, again, the stud gets credit for everything and he catches hell for everything. That's not
Not just
fair.
the stud, the female,
Yeah,
both
but what I'm
parents.
saying though, it takes two. So
Mm-hmm.
you cannot put the load on one dog. It's two. You know, you got to learn how to combine those bloods because it's not one dog. It's both dogs. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a tough road, and that's where some guys are just gifted on matching dogs up. They can match two dogs up and they get nice litters all the time. And there were some dogs that I seen back in the day that were I mean the bitches were terrible, and they produced phenomenal dogs. I seen males that were not nothing produce great dogs. You know, and what's crazy about the American Bully is back in the day, if you looked at litter puppies, you kind of got an idea what the dogs would look like. Now, being that it's such a new breed, that you may have a dog that's extremely bully as a puppy and grow up to be a whippet. And you may get a little skinny ass bony looking dog and he grow up to be a monster.
Hey, I just had that conversation today. I just had that conversation I was talking to Ivan Bishop about that. And I'm to the point now where I don't like, before early on, you get excited by that thick puppy and all, then the puppy grows up and the puppy becomes something totally left. And the puppy that was skinny that nobody paid attention to becomes the bully. So what I've learned from it is, to me, I don't judge based on the pup. I judge based on the consistency of the parents and what's come before the pup from that line. That makes me feel better. Like, even if this pup physically right now is not attractive to me knowing what it comes from gives me the confidence to know I have a good chance of this pup turning out. Am I right in thinking that way?
Yeah, you are. Like I said, you are. But the thing is, again, if you're going beyond that, you're looking beyond what's there. And let me address something what Crystal said. Crystal, I wish that were true, Crystal. You know, I wish that we were there, but it's not going to happen. I will tell you this: I will probably be dead and gone by the time you guys get to where you need to be with the American Bully. And if you look back at any breed, German Shepherds, you know, whatever the breed may be, go back and look at the history of these dogs in the AKC, and you will see the evolution of these dogs. You know, I wish that we could say, oh yeah, we should be there right now, and I just don't believe that. I mean, I wish it was true, you know, but I don't know. I don't think we're going to be there within the next 5 years, even 10 years. Like I said, I'll probably be dead and gone by the time they have the consistency that needs to be there. Because again, and they're right. There are too many variables. And one of the problems with that, and I think the problem was, is when they started the American Bully breed. I understand that they had to start somewhere. So I'm not bashing anybody or any registry. But what they did is if you look at now, what the pit bull started, where it all started for the pit bull, is you can only cut a hair so many times. You know what I'm saying? In other words, now we have a pocket, we have a classic, we have this. You know, they should have started off by calling it for what it was. Okay, this is the pit bull. We'll register him as a pit bull. This is an Amstaff. We're going to register as an Amstaff. You know what I'm saying? And now here's the American Bully. And then in the American Bully, there should have only been a standard and there should have been a pocket. You know what I'm saying? And I think that would have been more than enough, because every time you cut that down, you're going to have a lot of dogs that fall into gray areas. You know, what is he? Is he a classic or is he a standard? You know, he's falling right in the middle. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of gray area right now. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, that's a tough call. You know what I'm saying? So, and hopefully it's getting better with time. You know, I've watched some of these dogs and they are improving structurally, a lot of them. But there are a lot of times when you focus so much on structure, you begin to lose breed type. So now if you go back and you look at some of the dogs in the ring, they look, honestly, not to offend anybody, a lot of them look like pit bulls of the back in the days, in the 90s, when they had the big gap dogs, you know, the 85-pound gap dog. Everybody thinks that they were small. No, there were some monsters out there. I mean, I think, Ashley, you were in California, you've seen some of the gap dogs. Some of those dogs were like 85, 90-pound dogs, you know, and the standard call for 18 inches, 68 pounds. That's a long ways off, man. You know what I'm saying? 5 pounds on a dog is a grip. Now, when you get a dog that's 80 pounds versus a 68 pound on the standard, man, that's a whole different world. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's gonna take a long time, man. And you know, and I say until they get rid of some of this other stuff, it's gonna be more difficult. And with the more registries, the more variations, because everybody's, you know, sometimes some of the registries get started for the wrong reason. They get pissed off, so they go do their own thing. You know, so it's one of those things where it's a hard road, man. And the one that's going to suffer is the dogs.
I think eventually, I think they're gonna work down to possibly standard and pocket. That's it. Or to
I
me,
think that would be fantastic. Yes, man. I think that would be the greatest thing ever, man.
I think that's what they. I think that's what it's gonna take some time. I don't think it's gonna happen overnight. I think I might be
And I'm gonna
guarantee
say
that's
something
not
that
gonna happen.
I'm gonna say something that people are probably not gonna like. But even if you keep the exotic has done a better job of alienating themselves, separating themselves from the American bully than we have trying to deviate between classes, because they're making dogs that they might not be quite where they want to be yet, but you can look at a dog and say, oh, that's an exotic. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm trying to say there. You know what I'm saying? Because
You're not saying you agree with it. You're just saying the way they went about it. They've created their own community and created their own version of the dogs. Like you can look at an exotic and say, man, that's from their side. Is what you're saying. They've
right,
created
exactly.
something
Right.
to separate. You're not saying it's okay with you. You're saying
And then it's crazy. Yeah, and then what's crazy? There's some people that are using, again, marketing. They're using the name exotic because it's the hottest seller right now overseas. So guess what? There's dogs that are hella nice. Guess what? They're not exotics, but it brings in the attraction. Oh, he's an exotic. Let's go look at him. Oh, wow, he's a nice exotic. No, he's not an exotic. He's a pocket bully. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, one of those things where, and I'm not trying to alienate myself from anybody. I'm here for everybody, man. You know what I'm saying? I support all breeders. I support the exotic guys, whoever they may be. And the way I look at that, people may not. It's like when I first came from the UKC into the ABKC. They told me, oh, you're messing up, you're really screwing up, you're going to these guys. Well, guess what? My choice when I first came to ABKC into the American bully world was to take a proactive stance. I could sit on the sidelines and point fingers and say, oh, naughty, naughty boy. But I didn't. I stepped into the ring and I said, I'm going to go over to the American bully and I'm going to teach these guys what structure should be like, what they should move like, what they should do in the show ring. You know what I mean? So I came and took a proactive stance. I didn't come up there from the sideline and say, oh, you guys are, excuse my language, you guys are fucking up the breed. So the thing is, I didn't take that action. I took a pro stance. I walked into the ring and I wanted to show these guys what to do. And it's come a long ways. And the same thing's going to happen in the exotic world, believe it or not. They're going to come to a point in time where they're going to clean up their act. You know what I'm saying? And you may not believe that, but the way we look at the exotic is the way the UKC looked at the ABKC back in the day. I think there's too much separation, and we need to tell these guys. We need to friend them up and try to guide them. Because what's going to end up happening, whether we believe it or not, BSL is still around. And if we're divided, they're going to come in and they're going to take us. It's already happened. It was in where was it at?
Colorado.
I can't remember. There was a place where they won over and BSL won.
And one of the reasons why I did this live is I don't believe like the separation. I don't agree with it. I think we all can help each other and we all can educate each other. But I think people have to understand and respect each other's point of view. Even if you don't agree with it or don't understand it, you have to. And I brought you on because one thing I see in me watching you and for the past years is you're about teaching. And I think people, I don't want to say, like sometimes I call them, this is what I call them, the crazy dog people. It's a lot of crazy dog people that are very hardcore. And we're never, ever going to get anywhere if we don't have an understanding of each other and respect of each other, because it might be somebody in the exotic world that wants to learn to make my dog a healthier dog. But because you're so aggressive, he's scared to ask you.
Well, I said it before. There's guys that have their live feeds and they're pretty short and they're pretty, they really, there's the person that I know has a live feed, right? And if an exotic person says something, then I mean, he just, MFs him and tells him to get off his feet and stuff. I'm a firm believer that a sharp tongue never taught a lesson, man. When are you ever going to go to a person if he treats you like an asshole? Are you going to sit there and listen to this guy and you're going to take instruction from him? Never. You know what I'm saying? But if I go there and I friend you and I tell you, listen, this is what we have to try this, do this. If you make it something out of respect, I think you gain more. But yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever sat around with somebody that's been rude to them or short with them. You never learned a lesson that way. You learned the lesson, and guess what the lesson is? I'm going to stay away from that guy. That's what the lesson was. You know what I'm saying? You didn't learn any lesson on dogs or structure.
the most powerful and important thing people have to respect about each other is the passion we all have. No matter what type of taste we have a lot of passion. So you need to respect that. And by education and us working together, you know, I really believe everybody can get along. Like I don't understand why the old bully guys are mad at the new bully guys. And you know, everybody at the end, everybody has one connection, which is the passion.
The thing is, everybody's throwing rocks at each other. You know what I'm saying? I hear it all the time. Well, oh, you know, the old guys don't want to teach us. There's no more mentors. No, it's not that. Do you ask? And I'm an open door. Exactly. Anybody can ask. Send me an email, text me, come to my house. I've never turned anybody away. You know, so the thing is, you know, they're I don't know if it's they think that they're looking weak because they go ask for somebody for help. I don't understand that. You know what I'm saying?
I think what it is
but let me before I forget, let me tell you something first. You made a comment about the pedigree of the dogs, and there's two things that come to my mind when I say that. I put a little meme up years ago, and it was with a dog, and I says, I'll take an inch of dog over a mile of paper. You know, and what I mean by that is that goes into my next saying that I have. I saying you walk the dog, not the paper. In other words, at the end of the day, it's the animal. The pedigrees are tools only. You know what I'm saying? It's not one of those things where it's the Bible, especially today's pedigrees. Who knows what's in there and how to decipher them? You know, and that brings me to another thing. I used to know a guy, and I used to ask him, man, how do you get in these dogs so bullying stuff? And he goes, you know, you got to know where the special sauce came in at. And that's the dog you got to use. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, so it's one of those things where you're right. It's the dog. You know, at the end of the day, the only thing you know is what's coming out of your yard. So that's where it's so important for you to strive to set the example for everybody else to see the correct dog.
And I want to say this. We're not saying go out there and hang papers. We're not saying it. We want legit pedigrees and legit paperwork. But what we're saying is be realistic that, to me, my way of putting breeds together is based on phenotype. How does these two dogs match together? That's how I do it.
A lot of my breeders are on phenotype. I very seldom look at a pedigree. And a lot of people look at me and say, oh my God, you're crazy. Pedigree's everything. No, again, like I said, I'll take an inch of dog over a mile of paper. You know, so the thing is that you know, the thing is, it doesn't take a genetic engineer to see some of these dogs. You know, if you go out there and you really do your homework, you can say, oh, hey, that's an extreme bully dog, you know, then that's the dog I'm going to use. You know, if I'm trying to add some size to him, but I'm not going to sacrifice that he's got broke down passions, you know, high top line. You know, I try to pick out the extreme dogs that are very, very close to being a well-structured animal. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm going to incorporate. You know what I'm saying? And again, like I said, it don't take a genius to see that dog may have something in there. You know what I'm saying? He's no longer a pit bull and he's no longer an Amstaff. You know what I'm saying? And there's breeders out there right now that I tell you what, I love their dogs. You know, there's some breeders right now that there's a breeder on right now. I love Ashley's dogs. I love Ashley's dogs. I think Ashley's got some of the most dogs that are extreme but yet well-structured animals. I really like what she's doing. You know what I'm saying? And there's other people.
She's not scared to experiment. That's what I've noticed too.
What's that now?
She's not scared to experiment. Ashley.
Oh no, yeah, you know, and there's other breeders, and what happens is you get people like that, and then people hate on those other breeders. Oh, you know, I'll give another example. Bashard. I don't know why there's so much hate for the guy. You know, he did what he did, and he's got a pretty damn consistent look. You know what I'm saying? And he's got an extreme dog, and it's pretty damn nice. You know, there's certain things that they need to be fixed. Of course, all kennels have things they need to be fixed. You know what I'm saying? You know, so I just can't be a part of those groups that are like, you know, hating on one guy or attacking this group or that group. You know, I have no time for that, man. I'm too busy trying to create something fantastic and great myself.
And teach.
You know, so it's one of those things where it's a shame that you get people that are doing this. You know, instead of embracing that person and say, hey, man, what are you doing, man? Teach me something. You know what I mean? You know, instead of throwing rocks at him, hating him, you know, out of jealousy or whatever it may be, you know, envy, whatever you want to call it, man. But the thing is, you know, a lot of times when people are envious and jealous, it's because they want to be doing what you're doing, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'll be the first guy to ask some guy, man, how'd you do that, man? I'm never above anybody where Papa Pit thinks I can outdo anybody. No, I told you before, I'm a lifetime student of breeding and of the breed, because I don't think you'll ever finish learning about dogs. You know?
I want you to say that's a very, very big point. And I tell people that, like, you know, one thing I've learned in meeting individuals like yourself, I've sat down with Ed Shepard before. I've sat down with Dave Woods. I've sat down with a lot of people that have been around these dogs for a long time. And I've sat down with new people. And what I've learned is there's always room to learn, no matter what level you are at. I've learned some things from Dave. Dave has learned certain things from me. I've learned things from you, and you've told me you've learned things from the way I do things. It's always something to learn. And I think, like I said, till people understand that we need to respect each other and understand each other. And I think another big problem is people are scared to ask questions or talk to each other because they think they're trying to keep the edge. They're trying to keep the edge, like where I want my kennel to be ahead of yours, so I'm not going to talk to you or tell you anything or ask you anything because they want to keep the edge. How do you what's your opinion on that? Where in the dog world, people are scared to talk to each other or share things because they don't want the next man to be better than them.
That happens in anything that's competitive. When you're competitive, nobody wants to give their secrets out. And here's the crazy thing: you don't have to give out your secrets, but yeah, you can give them guidelines and some kind of framework to work with. It's like when I coach football. I coached football for years, right? And my mentality in football was, I'll teach you what I know, man. But what you learn, good luck, because I got the support and the team behind me that's going to make it happen. And we were a very successful football program, and I like the challenge. There's no glory in victory if it's a layover or an easy win. There's no glory in that, man. I like a hard fought battle. When I go into the show ring with dogs, guess what? I want to win against the best, man. Yes, I want to bring my dogs to compete against the greatest dogs ever. If I can stand with them guys, guess what? I can stand anywhere. So the thing is, some of the things are, don't be afraid, man. Share what you got, man. I mean, you're only going to improve everybody, you know what I'm saying? And it improves your game.
And that's we've spoken about the origin, the rogue bully and all that stuff. That's one of the reasons why when I learned about the product and I got a chance to know Nate and Blake, the guys that are behind it, that own it, that I feel like was something that really needed to be pushed within the community, because I feel like it was something that could be very, very helpful. And the way I was brought up is this: like, no matter what the next man has, I should have enough confidence in myself that I can do the same or better. Like, no man should be better than the other. Like, no matter what you think you can do, I should always have confidence in myself that I can do the same or better, and then that's been my approach.
It only makes you better. Competition only makes you better.
Exactly. And that's been my approach with, our kennel, Animalville, since I've been in the community. Like, to me, a lot of things is common sense, and it's just being open-minded and being understanding and respectable. One of the reasons why I want to do this live with you is I've watched you for years. We've talked on the phone, and I just feel like we need more things like this where people talk and are open. And I've seen comments throughout our live where people are saying, "Man, this is one of the best lives they've seen," because it was, they learned from it. And I think for some reason it's like a secret type of thing within our community where people don't want to talk because they're scared to give away secrets. And I don't understand that, because I don't care how much secrets I tell you, you're still never going to do it the way I do it. And no matter how many secrets you tell me, I'm still not going to do it the way you do it. So, it's not like you're giving something away. So I don't know if anybody else has any questions or if there's any subject you want to kind of talk about, Ron, but I've pretty much got out what I want to get out. Mr. Ramos is very respected within the bully community, and you know a lot. And again, like I told you over the phone, I see a lot of new people coming into the community in the last 3 years. Stephanie got on this live, Nate from Rogue, Brandon, who asked a question. These are guys that I've seen come into this community from other breeds. Stephanie, she deals with Malinois. Nate has dealt with all type of dogs. Brandon has dealt with Rottweilers, and the American bully breed is really growing. We went from the ABKC Nationals in Chicago, TV. It's a growing, thriving breed, and I think people need to understand that that are coming into the breed. I think a lot of people don't understand the history and the culture of it, and I know you've been around to see everything. So I feel like doing a live with you and you just, kind of letting people know, like you said, man, the breed is a poor man breed. To me, poor man is AKA, it comes from the streets. And,
That's
you
it.
have to.
That's where it's thought after. It was back alleys fighting them and so on. And so it was, it was always a poor man's breed versus, some of the other dogs. Even today, when the first thing people think about a pit bull, if you ask anybody in the street, the first thing they're gonna think tattoos, Camaro, and a thug.
And
You know what I'm
a
saying?
white beater. And a white
Yeah,
beater.
wife beater, a gangster. You know what I'm saying? 2 teeth missing and his hair all over the place. So that's what they associate you with. But we can't. We don't have to feed into that. That's where we come in and we give them the new look. We are accelerating in that. I got to give these guys credit. They're looking much better. I mean, they're representing the breed to the fullest, and I love that. When I first started judging in the bully world, I used to come. I was the only guy that showed up with a shirt and a tie. And I mean, the only guy. And people would say, well, "You think you're better than somebody else?" My answer to that was, it was never that, man. The shirt and the tie has always been to show my thanks and respect for you giving me the honor to go over your dog. And that's what my whole, since the inception of the bully started showing, I always wore the shirt and tie, and that was always to say, thank you, and I respect you so much that I'm doing this on behalf of saying my way of saying you something. I respect what you're doing, and I'm just thrilled that you gave me the honor to do this. So that's been for years, and now you've seen a lot of judges now. They're dressing up, they're getting things, and like I said, the whole thing on that was it was never to be above anybody else. It was to show my thanks and respect. You know, so it's one of those things where I think we're coming a long ways, and I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. And I
And
think
I want to say thank you so much for letting me to be a part of that game. I really
wow,
appreciate
man.
you.
I think we're gonna do this often. I think bully talks need to happen more often. I think roundtables need to happen more often. And it's something I'm putting together. For future shows and seminars where we're gonna make this common, where people like somebody from like you that's been around, somebody new. We need to get people to talk more. And learn. I've
You
learned.
talk about the round table. I was invited to the American Bulldog Nationals, and they invited me to be a part of a round table. And they had a representative from the American Bulldog. They had a representative from the ADBA style dog. I was there representing the American Bully, and they had another guy there, they had the working guys there. And something, there was a lot of misnomers that got cleared up on there. So it was really cool, man, that they had these people
Exactly.
there and listen to us talk. And I felt that it was my obligation to make the other guys understand that this is not a bad breed. This is a great breed. Because I know a lot of people frown upon us, and all the other breeds, they look down upon us. And I was trying to explain to these people, this is not a bad breed. Once you get to understand this breed, you're gonna find out it's probably one of the best family dogs you'll ever have, man. It's just one of the things that we're the unknown right now. Nobody likes the dark, man. Nobody's doesn't like not knowing what's around the corner. So, it's one of those things where we have to stand up and represent ourselves well, man. So I think
And
we're
I
going. I
think
think we're going the right direction. It's going to take some time, man.
And I think people don't understand like how important, like how big the bully community is. Like when I speak to other people from other dog breed, other dog breed community, like they're amazed by how much of a community we have. Like, and people don't, as much as we fight and argue with each other, I don't think people understand how powerful this bully community is. People are not
It's
used to
strong.
seeing this.
Like I said, I was so privileged to be a part of the beginning of it, and I can remember doing a show in Los Angeles. I think it was in the Forum, or I can't remember exactly where it was at. But I put up King Kamali for the national champion, and they had brought in. This was in Los Angeles, and they had brought in a army of gang task force to the show. The police did. I mean, it was insane, man. They had to have 200 cops show up, right? And they were amazed because they know who the gangsters are. They already, they got pictures of every tattoo everywhere. So these guys knew every gang member that was there, and they were amazed that not one incident happened. And it was all over the passion of the American Bully. There was thousands of people there. It was a packed house, man. And there was not one thing happened, man.
I'm gonna tell you what's crazy about the American Bully. The American Bully is the only breed, that I've seen where you have a drug dealer, a mom that has 3 kids at home, a guy all the way from Ireland, all next to each other talking.
Oh man, I've been to
Like,
shows. I've been to shows where I swear to God, there's been a correctional officer, a freaking criminal, a psychiatrist. I mean, I've seen it all, man. It blows me away, and all because of the passion of the dog. It's insane, man. You know, they'll
it's
put all their
powerful.
stuff, they'll leave it outside, and then go in that show ring. It's all about the dog, man.
The
You know,
dogs,
so it's really a cool thing, man.
it is. I mean, there's so many people I've met. I've met people outside of the United States. There's so many different people you meet, and I think people need to put aside the. There's a lot of personal things I see, like issue, like the round table I'm talking about doing, where I would love to have somebody from the exotic world, somebody from the have all these people together where I know it's things that happened in the past that I wasn't aware of or I wasn't part of, and I think people need to learn to. Sometimes you got to put certain things aside. Man, they didn't kill your wife, they didn't kill your mom, they didn't physically hurt anybody in your family. Sometimes things happen that people were I guess not mature or didn't understand what they did, and people have to put personal things aside and to me come together. I think that's the best way to bring this breed together, because I think it's a lot of people that I see that do lives that beef with each other, when I really think everybody has a
Hey, Hakeem, and that drug dealer's name was Ramon Garcia.
I see Ramon has been on you all day on the live. But nah, man, ain't no feds watching you, Ramon. We cool here. Ain't no feds watching. We cool. But I'm not gonna I'm not gonna hold it anymore. I really appreciate the time. We definitely gonna do this again with Mr. Ron Ramos. It took us 1 hour to get the live to finally work. So we have to figure it out. We didn't want to figure it out while you guys were watching. So again, the point of me bringing Mr. Ron Ramos on is because I think there's a lack of education within our community. People are scared to talk about things, no matter how much they disagree with each other. I think bringing Mr. Ron Ramos on would teach the new people within the breed things. I think there's a lot of new people in our breed that needed to hear these stories he spoke about in regards to the past, to help them understand more why people like me that have been around think the way we think, or how the people within the community think. Because a lot of people come into the community and I don't understand why they think that way. But you haven't been around for the last 10 years to understand what's been instilled in us. And to help us get better, you have to respect.
Well, I've been with the breed. I've been with the breed since 1983, and I'm still learning, man. I still don't know it all. By no means am I the guru. I'm not the God knowing of all dog. I'm not that guy, man. I'm still learning, and there's a lot of stuff I don't remember, but there's so much to it. So I'm always going to be an open book, but I'll be the first to tell you I don't know. It's one of those things where. And that's the other thing. We got to know our limitations, because there's a lot of people right now that are doing lives and making posts, and they honestly don't know. Be aware of where you're getting your information from, because there's a lot of people that are spinning out a lot of stuff, but they're the furthest from the truth that there is. So, and I'm not saying that there's a lot of bad guys on that, but I'm just saying be aware. Do your homework. Do your part, because don't expect somebody to feed you, man. It's not going to happen, you know what I'm saying? So you got to go out there and you got to search and do your thing, man.
And, man, we're going to end it on that, man. Like you said, live.
Before I go, though, January, I'll be doing Martinez's show here. It's a great show. They're giving away a bunch of cash. They're doing all kinds of stuff here in Madera, California. No, excuse me, it's Selma. And from Selma, I'll be in Panama to Philippines. And I have all parts in between: Guatemala, Spain, Belgium. I'm staying busy, and there's other places that I can't remember all, but we'll see you out there someplace in some part of the world, man. So peace.
Don't worry
and we'll see the show ring, baby.
Papa Pit brand is we're gonna make it work for you. We're gonna get it out there. You have a lot to give to the community. And I think, the community needs it. So, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys coming in and joining our live.
Thanks, everybody.
Talk to you guys later. We'll be doing this again. Thank you for your time, guys. Talk to you later. All right. Bye.